Krystyn.
Welcome to Two Mystic Mamas.
All right, so it's like a little bit chilly, but there's like this energy in the air today.
Yeah, lots of energy. I feel like this last week has been a real start from the transition of moving from summer into fall.
We're still getting like high temperatures.
Yeah.
But the lows are so much lower than they were.
Yeah,
like
we're
in the evenings.
Still definitely in summer. We're not full on yet, but definitely having evenings where it's like, oh, I need to go get a sweater. And I'm here for it.
I know you are.
It's getting hot and hurt. Well, I also have a cardigan on, so I can take that off.
I heard you have a car to get on. But I'm looking at you and I know you said you have a cardigan that you can take off. But I heard I have a car to get on. This is maybe why I'm good at that game, Incoherent. Because I see them.
Can you read lips?
I don't think I've ever actively tried to read lips. But I wonder if I could.
I am the absolute worst. When I needed to be able to read lips throughout points in my life where it really would have helped, you know, like in your 20s where you have a girlfriend that may be is in a funky situation and she's telling you that she needs help, and I'm just like, I got nothing.
That's why we have safe words.
Do hand motions or yell something. Do not mouth something to me because I'm like, what?
Do you remember that night that we were out and I was like, hey, if I text you blueberry muffins, I need you to come and get me.
Yes.
And you and the rest of the ladies were all passed the fuck out. And I'm texting everybody, blueberry muffins.
Well, I remember that conversation, but I don't remember ever getting a text.
Oh, yeah.
Why was it blueberry muffins?
I don't know. I was drunk when I came up with it.
Oh, okay. You probably wanted blueberry muffins.
Most likely.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Muffins.
That's so interesting about safe words, like how you come up with them.
Charlie and I have definitely come up with words that if we feel that we're in a social situation and maybe somebody is going down a road that they might not want to go down with that particular set of friends, that will cue the other one in with a word or something.
That's a good, yeah.
Or if we've had a bad experience or something and we want to go, one of us wants to go, then we'll use that.
I think that's really good. I think that's super healthy too, because then you don't need to, you know, there doesn't need to be like a long discussion about it or an argument or anything. It's just like, nope.
Wrap it up.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Honoring that person. So today, Krystyn, what are we talking about?
We're talking about embracing change. So I really think that the inspiration for this episode was rooted in the fact that fall is right around the corner. And this is one of the times when we can physically see a huge amount of change that's happening within our environment around us, right?
Yes.
You know, while this was rooted in the seasonal change, also it really illuminates the fact that there are a ton of ways that nature is constantly showing us how to change, what change looks like, right? We can literally see it everywhere we look around us. And that can be the moon cycle. It can be the life cycle of plants. It can be the birth of stars. It can be, you know, so many different magical moments that are happening in nature.
I feel like nature is the playbook or the storybook. And if you're, you know, maybe, I don't want to say not a creative person, because I feel like everybody's creative in some way, shape, or form. And everyone is gifted when it comes to creativity. But I think there's a lot of inspiration, to your point, about being out in nature and just seeing change. You know, like after a storm, there's always something that has shifted in the environment that, you know, you can go out and observe and see with your eyes and feel with your feet or your fingers or your body, just in general, your skin. And I think that nature, it provides so much clarity and hope, because you can see life happening and you can see death happening and you can see change happening.
So before we came in here, I asked Charlie I'm trying to remember exactly how I
think you
posed
said,
it.
what do you think of when you think of embracing change?
Yeah, I think that's how I said it. His answer, though, was really interesting because he was like, I really think about not being reactionary, or if something doesn't go my way, or if a change is made and maybe I had a different idea, but somebody goes with a different idea, like honoring and, you know, understanding that and not being upset about it. And so really his change was to do with other people. For me, I was thinking like internal change.
I was going to ask you, do you think, this goes back to men are from Mars, women are from Venus, that change for men is more outwardly and change for women is more inwardly?
I don't know that that is necessarily a gender stereotype. I know for Charlie that if we talk about something, then I'm like, you know, hey, it would be really awesome if we could make this change, you know, in how we're doing something, or if I express something that doesn't feel good, right? He will acknowledge it, but he'll simmer on it. And I've really never seen anybody take responsibility and really think through things quite the way he does. It's really kind of amazing. It'll be like 2 or 3 weeks later.
Yeah.
We won't be discussing, you know, whatever, if we had a disagreement or something like that. I'll come back and I'll be like, hey, I've really been thinking about this thing that you told me and X, Y, and Z, and lay it out. And I'm like, man, his level of awareness to be able to go back and think about things and then bring it all the way through and actually commit to cultivating a change is super commendable.
Yeah.
I think so hard.
Well, and I think, you know, we've talked a lot about change on different podcasts. I think that again, I'm not all about putting boxes around people or around genders and saying this is definitely something that every single X does. But I do find my experience with most of the men in my life, change is instantly met with resistance. Resistance doesn't have to be a negative thing. It can be a positive thing,
right.
But it's still met with and like just dragging of the feet. And for me, the way that I'm wired personally, when I know that I have to make a change, I mean, it depends. Some things are more life event changes, and then other things are smaller changes, like dietary changes, or, you know, physical activity changes, or a routine change. I think when you have kids and they're at different levels of existence, right? Change just happens all of the time, that it kind of just, you can't get away from it. You have to figure out how to embrace it. And I think for women, because we are the species that creates human life and grows human life, we are more enabled to accept change with a flow, if you will. Now, that's just my personal opinion.
I mean, I think it depends on what kind of change you're talking about.
Well, totally. I mean, change is a broad subject.
Right, because that's a very personal thing too. Like I tend to be, like, socially, right, a very go with the flow kind of girl. If we're hanging out in a group with our friends, I'm not going to make a big deal about if there's a change in plans, or, you know, if, you know, somebody wants to go to this restaurant and, you know, maybe I didn't feel that kind of food or whatever. That kind of stuff does not bother me at all. I got bigger fish to fry in my life. Don't worry about that kind of shit.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
I'd rather not make a big deal about any of that stuff or die on that sword.
Right. Who cares?
Right. But I do feel like, just in general, I guess, you know, I was thinking about that just now, like how when we create human life, there's not once that human life has been like started, there's not a lot that we can do to change it, right? We have to go with the flow. You have to adapt to how your body is changing and how your emotions are changing. And then you have to change again when it's time to deliver that life, you know? And so
I remember that starkly being like, nope, I've changed my mind. I don't want to do this anymore. This thing has to come out of me.
Yeah.
Like,
yes. Oh, yeah.
This wonderful, amazing thing. But still, it was that moment of, oh shit, this next step's gonna suck.
Well, and
But then what happens on the other side of that?
well, totally. But I think too, every mother has been dealt with that thought process of, I'm sorry, what? Okay. Right. So this is going to come out of my body one way, shape, or form, and having to deal with it mentally and preparing for it, because you have to. It's going to happen. There is an expiration date, and it is the only way to come out, right? And so I feel like that's such a cool metaphor to think about, because that is so true in life too. Like where we're met with different circumstances or situations that we clearly have participated in, we've created, we've cultivated. And then when the end is coming, or like the finish line's coming, or the result is coming, and it does bring fear, and it does bring those feelings of the unknown and holy shit, and can I do this? And am I capable of doing this? And then bringing that full circle to say, yeah, you are fucking capable of doing it. And this is why you're capable of doing it. And this is how you're capable of doing it. And this is what you're going to do, and laying out those steps and those plans. So I just feel as women, like, and even if you haven't had children, you're still, every woman is somewhat programmed to be, naturally be able to have children, even if you don't have children, and walk through those psychological steps to come about when it has to do with change. So for me, naturally, because I've had 3 kids, I think I just naturally resonate towards that particular example, because it was the most monumental and the most significant change physically, mentally, spiritually that I've ever happened. And it gifts me every day, like going back to what you were saying, but see what's on the other side. And then you're gifted this human that you then have to raise, which.
But really, doesn't change just come down to the unknown?
The feeling around change, or like the
act of change, really, and it can be the fear around change as well, is that change represents something that we are not comfortable with in that moment.
Letting go of control.
Well, it's uncertainty, right? There comes a time when you have to just let go and trust the process. We should pause there, because there's plenty of listeners that are going to immediately say, how the fuck do I do that? Yeah.
How do I let go?
I think the number one thing that you have to do in order to let go is trust yourself. You have to be able to trust yourself, and also trust that you are going to be supported in the future as much, if not more, than you are supported right now by the universe.
I feel like we need to just continue to break this down.
Right. So what is that? When you think about people that maybe don't change their whole life.
When you say that, you mean just creatures of habit, that they just, the way they were raised is the way they live their life, and they don't bring into existence.
Right. And maybe it's not even the way they're raised, just the life that they've chosen. They stay in a zone of comfortability.
Like the Truman Show.
I haven't seen the Truman Show. I don't know why you expected a different fucking answer from me for that, Rachel.
So the Truman Show is about a man that he's being filmed, but he doesn't know he's being filmed. And every day he does the exact same fucking thing to a T. He wakes up, he gets dressed, he eats his breakfast, he goes to work, he says hi to the same 4 people.
Right.
And then he starts coming into his own, having his own thoughts, having creativity, having intuition. Wait, is this all there is? And then he starts picking up on the fact that things are too perfect. There isn't change. And then he realizes, gets in a boat. Anyways, you're gonna have to watch it. It's anybody who's listening who knows the Truman Show, you know where I'm going with this. But
okay,
it's very relatable. It's very relatable to what we're talking about, and that there are plenty of people, probably not our listeners.
No, but I guarantee they have somebody in their life that they feel like they cannot connect with, because that person might not understand the journey that they're on.
Oh, sure.
Because they're stuck in the lane that they're in.
Yeah.
And that can be every facet of your life. People that, refuse to listen to different genres of music because they say they only one kind of music. That's been one thing that's always been a pet peeve of mine.
Mm-hmm.
As somebody who's a musician, and has really gone from goth girl to, boho, indie, jazz, any of it. I love it all. I love it all. Even if it's not maybe my favorite genre of music, I can find something that I like.
Yeah, I can find appreciation for sure.
And so people that are like, oh, fuck that. I won't listen to that. You know what I mean?
I hate country music.
Or people that will only listen to country music. And I used to be one of those people that was like, I hate country music. Right. But then I was like, well, then I started playing in a country band.
I was like, who flipped your switch? Tell me who flipped your switch.
It was not a who or a what. It was playing. It was playing and having appreciation for it. That flipped the switch. That was just like, oh, I can appreciate this and like this because it's music. And I've always said, and I don't know, I heard this when I was really young.
Yeah.
And it's always stuck with me that music is the universal language. But the thing is that we do not have to stay the way that we are. We can choose to. But we can also choose to change.
Sure.
Life is going to change around us all the time.
Well, to your point, life does change around you, right? And then you can also, to that same breath, have people around you that change too much and that don't, and change in the wrong ways, right? Not all change is good. We should preface this, that change in what we're talking about, for me, is accompanied by intuition. It's accompanied by growth. I would challenge what you say only because even though we may not like the changes that occur, and this especially happens with if you have anybody in your life that has addiction problems, right? We may not like the changes that occur, but I do feel like for their soul's journey, there is a purpose to them. Yeah, I mean, we could get into circumstantial things, but I'm talking more along the lines of sudden change. Like say you're dealt with a situation and you're making an emotional change decision, but you haven't thought it through.
Right.
Big life changes, big life decisions, and there's no thought process, and you're just literally being like, spur of the moment, let's do this, right? In a relationship, moving in with somebody too fast. Right? Not knowing that human, not knowing who that person is, not necessarily with your circumstance that you were just mentioning, but right. I feel like change too needs to be met with some comprehension around what it is. So if it's a major life change, because we've all had friends that have rushed into relationships with people that we were like, no, dude.
Right.
Because they have a different rose-colored tinted glasses kind of thing on. And then we have come to the realization is, right, so I wouldn't have made that change. But cool on them. Let them figure it out on that journey, right? So I guess, I don't know, maybe it does all come together.
I guess for me, I feel like it's not my place to decide.
Well, totally.
Whether or not somebody's change is good or not good for them.
But I'm saying if we have listeners out there that are about to make some big changes,
right,
I would encourage them to be thought out in some way, shape, or form.
1,000%.
Not just, if you answer that question, be like, well, I haven't really thought about it. Well, then you should pause and take a think and just lay out some of the risks versus the rewards. Because again, we can't predict the future, right? And I'm not about not making changes out of fear or out of the unknown, because I think that's part of the fun of life is jumping into the deep end and being like, I don't know. But I also do think as we age that there is a level of comprehension. I have thought about this. If I decide to move to Europe, I do have a job lined up. I have a place put together. Right. I have some friends in the area. And if shit goes sideways, I have a fallout plan. I have a backup plan.
Okay, so let me ask you then, because you made a pretty huge life change almost a year ago.
Yeah, we are coming up on a year in November.
Right. And part of that was spontaneous, but part of it was thought out. Right. There was kind of like a mixture of the two. How much did you feel like that played a role in your decision.
Yeah, I think so. It's interesting because I know that seed of change had been placed in my soul long before I had actually pulled the trigger.
Right.
And yeah, so it'll be a year in November, the beginning of November, that I resigned from the last tech job that I had. I've been reflecting on it a lot, and I still naturally, I 100% stand behind that decision because I knew it was the right decision for my soul. But I had, to your point, I had thought a lot about it, but I'd thought a lot about leaving the job and knowing that I had to leave the job, but not preparing for next steps because I kept getting downloads that it will just present itself. Like the opportunities will present itself. You will be fine. You have these other things that we want you to focus on. Podcast being one of them. I have a servant heart. And so just finding that ability to serve others and to be a source of help and healing in this world. And so when I decided to leave, for me, the final straw or the final aha moment was when they hired this one particular person that just didn't align with me on basically every level. And I was like, oh, this is all I need. Oh, look, there's Charles.
Charlie's making an appearance.
Yes, we should bring him in.
Hello.
We're filming your butt. We're talking about embracing change. Wow.
I also enjoy embracing change. Well, I thought it was interesting when you asked my take on it earlier. I went right to other people making changes.
Hold on.
Check.
He can't hear, but he sounds good.
Yeah,
oh.
that's better.
Yes, I sound good. Hear that? Not annoying at all, Krystyn.
Hey, you guys know who died?
Huh?
My dad, he told me today. My dad did not die. Do you know who died?
Did you just gonna fucking pass this on casually?
Thank God.
Phil Donahue.
Oh,
I'm glad the Master Chef is still here. Master Chef.
He's a certified executive, not a master.
He's a master in my mind.
Okay. Why are you whispering?
Now I sound so loud. Then I sound weird.
No, I don't know why you're whispering. What is happening?
What's happening?
Feel like I don't want to talk too loud.
Just speak normally.
Yeah,
We'll adjust you in post.
Yeah.
Give me the fucking headphones so you can't hear yourself.
You and Jeffrey, your podcast episode will be you just making.
What, Jeff's gonna yell and he's gonna whisper and this is what they're gonna do? And Jeff's gonna be like, why are you talking, man?
I don't know, buddy. Why are you yelling at me? Phil Donahue from who's Phil Donahue?
I knew. I was like, from the Phil Donahue show. And I was like, he doesn't know who it is. That's because you're a baby.
What year was Phil Donahue in a show?
1983 to like 1991.
Yeah, I got nothing on that one.
He was basically the Oprah Winfrey before Oprah Winfrey.
My shout out to Bad Boys Ride or Die.
Oh my God.
That's so
so
funny.
good.
I feel like you guys could incorporate that because Martin Lawrence in the movie has a spiritual awakening.
Yes, we were there for it. We saw it when you did.
Well, but what if
And
nobody
then-
else has seen it? My afternoon coffee just kicked in.
I see that. Are you gonna?
Wowza.
Does your
So,
afternoon coffee also have to make you poop?
Yes.
Really?
Coffee always makes me poop.
Yeah, but it just really kicks in once in the
Krystyn
morning.
loves my pooping frequency.
Krystyn does not like poop. Talking about poop, incorporating it into
wanna
our
do a whole
podcast.
episode where you and I just talk about poop the
poop?
whole time? And then Krystyn will have to
Remember
edit
when I told
a
her
whole episode of us
she was-
talking over each other about poop.
Do you remember when I talked about it on our 43rd birthday episode? Where she said she was going to do 43 shots of kale juice. And I was like, well, you're definitely going to shit then.
She would have.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She'd have been like a cow that's been in the green pasture.
God damn it.
Oh, like cow patties.
Stop it.
They're very good for your garden.
Yeah.
How does your garden grow?
I'm not gonna go poop in my garden, Rachel.
Well, no.
It'll keep the whistle pig away. Bring it back around so they know a badass bitch lives here.
Have you ever told her that story?
I don't know. Have we ever told that story? Let me tell the story right now.
Where you came up with the whistle pig?
No. So the first time we had a garden, we did not have a fence at the time. So we were just using random things to try to ward the deer off. So we went out one time and we're like doing stuff, and I just hear, and I'm like, Krystyn, what are you doing? She's, I'm peeing. And then she like waddles over and squats down and does it like 2 more times. She goes, she stands up and pulls her pants up, and she goes, there, now they know a badass bitch lives here.
Your neighbors are not that far. Was it at night?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I don't know.
Because nobody has lights. There's also another time where Krystyn was performing a ritual outside in the moonlight, and she had put some tea candles on a wicker table, and she comes inside. Excuse yourself, Stevie. And we're laying in bed, and I'm like, oh, the fire is really going out there. And I look out, and there's the old table, just ablaze. What, we both went out to put it out naked? Yeah, you went for the hose, I went for the bucket. She's like, call 911. I was like, don't call 911. I can handle this.
You were going to call 911?
It was like a raging fire.
It was 1:30 in the morning. She's like, people are going to see the black smoke. Krystyn.
No one's going to see your black smoke.
It's 2:00 in the morning.
Also, that would have caused so much neighborhood gossip.
Oh my gosh.
For multiple reasons.
It was out in no time. I just rolled it into the fire pit.
How? What? With what?
My foot? Anyway, can we digress?
Always. And cut. Krystyn, see, this is part of the luxury that Krystyn has, because Krystyn can just cut everything and anything that no, we're not going to talk about that. We're going to cut that out.
Cut that. There's a very famous podcast with some guys that were not all from Philadelphia, but some of them were, and they have a podcast, and they always say, cut that.
What's the name of the podcast?
It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Oh, that's also a podcast?
Yeah, it's really cool because they started the beginning of the series, and they would go episode by episode and talk about
it's not the people
It's the same guys. It's the 3 main guys, Charlie Day.
Yeah.
And the other 2 guys. Rob, McElhaney, and Dennis. In real life, his name is not Dennis.
Isn't it little guy?
That's Charlie Day.
Danny DeVito.
No, Danny DeVito was like an extra.
I'm sorry?
Danny DeVito.
I don't think Danny DeVito's always. He's never an extra.
No, he's not. Sorry, extra was he was an added bonus, right? So Fox
Was he the dad?
Yeah, he was the dad of the
Did he die?
Hold on, you're asking a lot of questions. In this TV show, they thought it was the father of Dennis and Sweet D, but he's not, because their mom is a cheating whore. And I mean, Frank's words. And so like when
Frank's Danny DeVito's character.
Yeah. So
I've
when they were
never
like
seen the show.
going to like air the 2nd season or whatever.
Mark this moment.
What happened?
We found out another movie Krystyn hadn't seen.
Well, shocker. What is it?
The Truman Show.
You're all right.
Yeah, but we were talking about how, she was saying how there's people that never change and they do the same thing every day all the time. And I was like, oh, like the Truman Show.
Yeah, but then it's about change though. Because he starts to notice that everybody's doing the same thing around him all the time.
Thank you. I know. That's why it is a good movie for this episode.
Excuse myself so you guys can get back on topic.
Oh, back on top.
Back on top again.
Bless it.
God, Jeffrey and I are going to have so much fun. The girls were like, earlier they were like, are you jealous that we were on the episode first and we had our episode before you and Jeffrey? I was like, no, we let you go first. And they were like, oh, no, you didn't.
Yes, you did.
And yeah. And they were like, our episode's only 20 minutes. And I was like, it's because for most of your time, you just giggled at Emmeline farting.
Which all got cut.
And then a long rant about balls.
Yeah, that all got cut, though.
Oh, yeah.
All right, love you.
Damn it.
That was hilarious. All right, I don't know if you've gotten anything on your phone said.
Do you know what that is a great example of? Embracing change.
Allowing your husband to come in and take over your spot for a hot minute?
Yeah.
I do
Embracing change.
think Jeff and Charles, when they get together, will have one hell of an episode.
Agreed. And I'm excited for the episode with all 4 of us.
Yeah, I was just thinking too, though, I don't know if we've talked about having them on with us, but I also think it would be fantastic to have just the two of them on.
100%. You know, prior to Charlie's big moment here, we were talking about big life changes. And I really think that staying present is the key to avoiding overwhelm. Well, as much as you can in those big moments of change.
I think being present is a catalyst for true joy and happiness.
Well, right. Because if we're in the moment, we're staying adaptable, right? Because we're responding to the moment that's happening.
The flow.
And we're not responding to we're not acting in conditioned responses. We're not, reacting or acting defensively or in response to something. We're literally in the moment.
Yeah.
And that allows us to be more flexible. And it also allows us to celebrate progress on a very small scale.
Yes.
Which I think is really integral part of being able to change.
Absolutely.
And grow and expand and will just level the fuck up.
Yep. And
in your life.
Yeah, for sure. And I think finding gratitude when you're present and in the moment, gratitude becomes a lot more accessible because you are constantly picking up on what is around you, impacting you, how you're feeling, and processing it in the moment, not burying it, not putting it somewhere under a blanket, not shoving it in a closet. You're basically just, okay, we're going to head, okay, this doesn't feel good. Okay, but that's okay. And why doesn't this feel good? And digging in and, everything doesn't have to be like, you don't have to dig so deep that you go down so, such deep ways. You can process it and be like, I honor that and let it go.
Yeah.
We did a meditation this morning and we wrote down lists of things that we wanted to let go, old beliefs, old ways,
systems, processes, behaviors, habits,
memories, people, places, things that no longer are serving us.
Let it go.
And then we burned that bitch. Burn that paper. Whoop, whoop. Yours burned a lot faster than mine. Mine took like a while to get going.
Yeah, it was interesting, wasn't it?
Yeah. But it was so cleansing. If you guys don't know what we're talking about, you can do this at any point in time. Just make sure when you burn it, it's in a safe place and you're doing it, wisely. Okay. But basically you just take a piece of paper and you just say, I am letting go of this situation. I am letting go of this relationship. I am letting go of this toxic behavior. I am letting go of this toxic habit. I am letting go of this belief that no longer serves me. And then when you write it down, you give it intention. And then when you burn it, it is dissolving it. It's putting it to ash. It's just letting it go. And then it cleanses you. And it is another way of cutting cords to those people, places, and things that no longer serve you. And it's something that it's such a great habit. I mean, honestly, you could do it on the daily if you wanted.
One of my favorite parts of that ritual was the visualization, right?
Oh, yeah.
And this is something that we can do like when we're making changes or changes are being made for us in our life.
Oh.
Right?
Okay.
It's recognizing our own part in them, regardless of whether you were the catalyst for this change or not. A really big part of this is recognizing our own power in our lives. And it's really hard to do because when we take responsibility and we can take ownership, we're also realizing that we can make anything happen in our lives.
Totally.
And that's scary because guess who is then now responsible for their own happiness?
No, for sure.
Right.
But we should be responsible for our own happiness.
100%. But a lot of times it remains easier for people to just stay where they're at or stay in a place of victimhood rather than stepping up and owning their power and saying, you know what? There may be circumstances I can't control, but I can control how I respond. I can control where I go from here. I can control my part in this, right? The same way that we can control how we interact in hard situations with people in our life, right? Or when we're triggered by our kids or we're triggered by our spouse or we're triggered by, work or whatever.
Totally.
It's the same thing, when we can take ownership for it.
Yep.
it's freeing. It's so freeing because it creates all of this space for you to actually cultivate some sort of change is really meaningful for you in your life.
Yeah.
Instead of just being cluttered with all this peripheral shit.
Mm-hmm. I think that a lot of times if people get stuck in cycles that are no longer serving them, there is a process that needs to take place where you just kind of analyze how you got there and why you're there. And I go back to me leaving my job. I knew that if I didn't make that change, it was going to be made for me, which I knew that because I had it happen to me before.
Right.
And I did not heed the signs from the universe.
Right.
And again, people, there are signs from the universe, from your angels, from your spirit guides every single fucking day. They give them to you every single day. And if you're not listening to them, they'll make them louder.
And louder and louder.
And so I had an example prior to me resigning from this past position where I was at a job and it was toxic in a lot of ways. And I was not heeding the signs that I was getting from the universe to get out because it wasn't safe for me and it was not serving me in my greatest and highest good. And I did not heed those signs and I got fired. And it was such a hard lesson. I mean, it was beautiful in a lot of ways. And I can say that now because I've had time to process it and really analyze it. But again, it was there the whole time. I've also had friends that have gone through divorces where there were signs prior to them getting married that it was not supposed to happen. And they did not heed those signs. And they had to walk that journey. They had to go down that path. And I think for us, right, so we're in our early 40s. We've had friends. Well, you've gone through a divorce.
Right.
We've also had friends that have gone through divorce. And I think that that is a change that is worth talking about because that is really where a lot of taking back that power, taking back that control, taking back ownership of your own destiny and your happiness lies.
I mean, that was a huge part of my journey.
Sure.
Honestly. And when I was thinking about change and how it integrates with nature, I was thinking about flowing water and specifically rivers, right? So if we think about change, just like water is going to find its way and reach its final destination, no matter what, it's the same with us. There's going to be obstacles in our way, but we're still going to get there.
Yep.
It's up to us to adapt and move and flow around all of those obstacles that pop up in the river that is our life.
Yep.
It's about learning how to go with that flow.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yeah. I asked some local people in my community what they thought about change and just embracing change and what that looked like for them. And I just think it's worth mentioning here that some of these answers, if anybody can relate to them. But this one, they're all from women. So this one woman said, when I was in my 20s, I had a really hard time if anything changed in my life. Then I got divorced and life forced changes on me. Some good, some bad, but all helped me grow as a person. Now I try to embrace all the changes in my life from the mundane to the serious. You never know what will happen. I think God's plan is better than mine, even if I can't see it at the moment, which naturally I completely relate to too. I think that even when things happen that are tragic or unexpected, finding the gratitude in what happens, relationships that are made, changes that happen is really foundational.
Right. And even if you're in a place of such hurt that you can't find the gratitude, just sitting with it and knowing that as time passes, there will be little pieces that kind of fit into the puzzle that will allow you to kind of shape some gratitude towards that really painful moment.
Mm-hmm. This one woman said, I get excited about change in most cases and in a good way. I grew up with constant change, including schools and homes I lived in. So that was my normal. So when things stay the same, I tend to get bored.
I can understand that. I definitely feel that.
Last one I'll just mention here is, she mentions another podcast. I think the podcast called A Slight Change of Plans has really helped me with change. For me, change generally brings up feelings of insecurity when it's not on my terms. If it is a new job that I sought out, for example, I'm excited for the change of scenery and challenge. If it's an unexpected change, I spiral into every worst case scenario for a while I find my footing. I'm a type A planner. I don't like to be surprised by change. That podcast helped me shift my perspective a bit into embracing the unexpected as possibilities that I couldn't see. I do my best after the initial spiral to see beyond the temporary insecurity into the situation's potential. Sometimes this takes longer than I'd like, which I think is also worth mentioning. You know, like change, like we mentioned, it probably takes time and it is slower than we would like. And so embracing that time while you're doing the damn thing there's a gift in figuring that out, and patience, and just knowing that everything that you're chipping away at, that you're doing, does add up.
And I would just invite you to get curious about when things do change and you have these feelings that crop up inside you. What are they? What are they, and why are you feeling them? Or even if you don't know why you're feeling them, just write them down. This is what I'm feeling right now. And maybe come back and revisit that and look at that with new, fresh eyes later on. And just get really curious about who you are. We're all going to change. We're all going to grow old. We're all going to eventually die. And this is the longest relationship you're ever going to have with anybody, is the one that you have with yourself.
Yeah. And that's so true.
So this is also the relationship we tend to take the least care of and spend the least time with, is the one that we have with ourselves.
Yeah.
But it can be the most rewarding if we can just allow ourselves to tune in and tap into those feelings without judging ourselves for having them. If you are mad because of a change, that's okay.
Yep.
If you are sad, if you are angry, if you are jealous, if you are fearful, that's okay. If you're happy, also okay.
Yeah. Well, the thing that I wrote down about that is those are all valid places to be for a period of time, but they are not states of appreciation.
Right.
So honor that feeling in you, recognize that feeling, do something to get out of that state. Because when you're not in a state of appreciation, you don't feel good. And feeling good is where, you want to be. You want to be in a state of contentment and joy and happiness with yourself. And once you're in that state, then your health also tends to be your mental health, your physical health tends to be better.
And I think that it's important to note that you can be in a state of deep joy and happiness without having the answers.
Yeah, for sure.
Rachel and I are in a place where we truly have no clue where this podcast is going to take us, but we believe in it so much.
Yeah, so hard.
But
we believe in it, but we also we get confirmation that we're on the right path with this all the fucking time.
Right, because we're open to hearing those signs.
Yes.
Not everybody might be in that space where
Totally.
they're open to receiving those signs, because maybe it isn't a choice.
Right.
A change that was thrust upon them was not chosen. And it's just remembering that even though you don't have the answers and you don't know the destination even,
yep,
you can still find deep joy in the process.
Totally.
Of transforming.
Yeah.
And becoming whoever the fuck it is you're becoming.
Totally. Because I think that word destination too, we don't know the final destination, but we know these little pit stops, and we know these little places that we're going along the way, and that they all cultivate incredible amounts of prosperity and growth and beauty and basically the elements we need to continue the journey.
I think that the destination is where our core values lie. And that journey is just a continuation of always reaffirming what those core values are, and the actions and the steps that we go through every single day as we reaffirm those.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for being here with us today.
Yep. And I would just say, naturally, go out, make changes, do things that better yourself in all of the ways, physically, mentally, spiritually. dance it out. Have a really good dance party. Put on Changes by David Bowie. Put on music that just makes your body gyrate and dance it out. Please tell us all the things. Send us an email or get on social with us and support us and give us your stories. Tell us what changes you made. Tell us what crazy things happened, what beautiful things happened, what painful things happened. We are here for all of it.
We love you guys so much. Thank you for being here today.
Change it.
We're out.
All right, bye.
Bye.